Hello, my name is Riaz and welcome to a brand new episode of Cine Talkies Film Fridays podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single new episode in the future. In today's episode, we bring you an exclusive interview that was recorded but never aired. He has been credited as the first musician to have played the santoor and Indian classical music on the piano. A review in the US-based keyboard magazine described him as the fastest keyboard player in the world and called him the keyboard discovery of the 90s. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome Mr. Adnan Sami to South Africa.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
You've performed in South Africa before, and this is possibly your third or fourth time that you're performing in South Africa. How does it feel?
Absolutely wonderful. The audience over here is extremely passionate, and every time I've come here, I've had a wonderful, wonderful experience, and it's that love that always brings me back.
Besides the audience in South Africa, what is it that you like most about South Africa and coming to South Africa to perform?
I've always said this. It's always the people. And I think that is the greatest reason for me to come back. It's always the people who make a place beautiful. It's like you live in a house, but it's the people that make it a home. So the warmth that I get from South Africa, from the people, it is that and that alone that brings me to South Africa. Because of course, as a country, it's a beautiful country, but it's the people that make this country even more beautiful.
Now, you've done a number of private albums as well, talking a bit about your career. And I absolutely remember on a very cold in London when I was living there, I actually got to watch you at the Wembley Arena around 2004. And my God, you were absolutely amazing. And Kabito Milao was one of my favorite albums. You've done a number of albums. When you compare working on an album compared to working on a film soundtrack, how do you compare the two?
Well, melodically speaking, from the music perspective, it's the same seven notes. Whether I use those seven notes for a private album or for a film soundtrack, it will always be from those seven notes. However, when you're working for a film, you are slightly restricted because you're working around a very, very set plot and a storyline and setting, and so therefore you're weaving your music around the story of the film, and that will sometimes depend upon the setting, the time period of the film, etc., and the location. Like, for example, I was working on a film called Lucky, and that film was primarily shot in Russia. And so therefore I had to sort of look upon, sounds and musicality which was relevant for, and use instruments that were relevant to Russia in certain places. When I was working on a soundtrack called of a film 1920, now obviously as the title suggests, 1920 is a period film, and so I needed to design my compositions which would complement that era, and the choice of my musicians. Singers, etc., was also very, very dependent upon the kind of sound that I wanted for that period. So, however, when I'm working on an album, the whole thing changes because I suddenly have the freedom to go into any direction musically that I want. I have the independence. I'm not bound by any location, any time setting. I can do a Cine Mila, which is a sort of, on one hand, it's sort of classical fusion, with a breakbeat, and then suddenly I can do a Tera Chehra and in the same album, and it's acceptable. And also another very, very important thing, that lyrically speaking, a film soundtrack or a film album will be very relevant to the story of the film, whereas my independent albums are actually very biographical. I many times about my life. Many times I tell people that if you really want to know what I've been through in my life, just listen to my songs. Because each song represents a moment of my life. What I'm not able to say sometimes in words about what I'm going through, I actually am able to sing about or write about. So my songs and my albums are very biographical.
Now, a very difficult question. If you were to choose one of your favorite albums that has lots of great memories attached to it, which album would it be and why?
Like you said, it's very difficult. Every moment of your life, as I just mentioned, my albums are all very biographical, and for me, every moment of my life that I have been through is going to be special, and I can't say that one is more important than the other, because every experience, good or bad, contributes in making you the person that you are.
Certainly, you couldn't have said that better. Every project you're saying is special to you. Now, you've worked with Lataji as well as Ashaji as well, and you also had the good opportunity of meeting R.D. Burman Saab back in the day. What are some of your fond memories of working with these legends?
Well, I think one of the most beautiful. I've learned a lot of things from probably everyone that I've worked with, because that's the attitude that I have. I don't see any. I don't just look at it from an age perspective. I think that everyone has their own method to their genius or madness or whatever you want to call it, and there's something to be learned from everyone. But I think one very, very interesting lesson that I learned was from Asha ji, and she said to me, whenever you face the microphone, and I remember I was very young at that time. Of course, I'm very young even now. Don't get me wrong. But younger than what I am now. But she said something very interesting to me. She said, whenever you face the microphone, even though there's no camera, the microphone is no less than a camera, because if you're singing a happy song, bring a smile on your face when you sing it, even though people might not be able to see the smile through their eyes. But the microphone will be able to tell that you've got a smile on your face. And that will make you happy. As opposed to singing a happy song with a expressionless face, because somehow when your lips spread because of your smile, that does come across in the microphone. So that was something when I tried that, it really made a lot of difference. And I would say that to all the aspiring singers, that even if you're recording, if you're singing a happy song, have that smile on your face. It will cut across through the microphone. It's like this. If I'm speaking like this, you know that I'm not smiling. And if I'm speaking like this, you know that my lips are parted and I've got a smile on my face.
That possibly has to be the best advice, and I'm sure people listening to you will need to take heed to that, because, yes, you're right, because you can hear those expressions in the singer's voice. Do you prefer performing on stage or recording in a studio?
They're completely two different worlds. The studio is a very surreal environment. It's very conducive to a lot of there's a lot of silence in a studio, and that's where you're doing a tremendous amount of polishing, and there is a very delayed kind of a reaction, in the sense that you do something wonderful, and you sort of say to yourself, hey, this sounds really incredible. I hope the people like it when they hear it. And you will not know what that reaction will be till maybe 6 months, whatever, down the line, whenever the song or the album gets released, and you start experiencing the reaction to it. However, the beautiful part about live is that you do something, you instantly get a response from the audience. And that is so gratifying. And sometimes that is brilliant, because when you get that immediate reaction, you as an artist react further to it. And therefore, as a result of that, you do something more, because you're encouraged immediately, right there and then. Whereas in the studio, when you do something and you get a reaction, let's say many months down the line, or maybe sometimes a year down the line, you sort of say, oh, damn, if I knew they were going to love that, I would have done a bit more of that. There's not a single pre-recorded thing on my show. Everything is live. Not even a single drum loop is sampled or pre-recorded. So we have the freedom to prolong anything, or come back to it, or further build on it. We suddenly feel that we're going into a very interesting, different direction. We suddenly say, all right, okay, fine, let's just sort of wallow on this for a while, Let's marinate in this for a while. So, that is really exciting for us as musicians, and by the grace of God, I have such a tremendous, some of the finest musicians of India who always accompany me, that, they have the ability and musical confidence of improvisation, whereby they suddenly sort of look at me and they say, oh, he's going on a weird tangent, follow him. And everybody's in that zone that we don't know where this is going to go. But you know what? Let's just play along. And that's fun for us, and it keeps it fresh for us. We enjoy ourselves.
Like I said, I've seen you twice before, and every show of yours is absolutely on another level. The audience gets so involved, and lovely, lovely performance indeed. What can audiences expect from your show this weekend? Every time I've come, I've tried my level best to perform as many songs as possible. But of course, many times, certain songs get left out. So this time, apart from the very, very popular songs which people would expect, and even I would want to play for them, there are many, many requests that I've received of songs which I've not sung before or performed before on stage. And as you probably know, we've just come in from the UK, from the UK tour. And we've had a wonderful, wonderful UK tour as it just concluded. And in that, there were many songs that we performed for the first time. And a lot of people have turned around to us and said, oh my God, thank God you sung that song. We've been always wanting to hear that from you. We've always loved that song, or this song, or that song, or whatever. And so, we're going to be singing, apart from our usual, expected, classics, whatever you want to call them. We're going to be singing some songs which I've never sung before on stage, which people like, and so it's going to be a good mix of songs from the recent past and some classic old ones, and some songs which we've never, like I said, many songs that we've never done before. So it's really fun. The song Barto Joli has been a huge rage here, a number one song on our radio station, as well as many radio stations here in South Africa.
Yeah.
How was it recording that song?
For more than 20 years. I got a call from him, and he said that, I'm working on this film, and, there's this fabulous, classic old folk Kawaii, which we are planning to have in the film, and So I was like, oh, well done, you. Good for you.
Yes.
You've got a Kawaii. Well done, you know.
Yes.
Here's the cheers for you. You go, you go. He said, yeah. Oh, that, yeah, whatever. But I want you to sing it. I said, what?
Yeah.
I said, B, you want me to do a Kawaii? And he said, yeah. I said, I've never done a Kawaii before. I've composed Kawaiis, but I've never sung a Kawaii before. He said, that's exactly why I want you to do it.
Wow.
And I sort of, took a step back and I sort of said, okay. And I sort of laughed at him and I said, oh, so you're giving me a challenge. so he sort of took a cue. He said, yes, I'm giving you a challenge. Are you up to it? So I sort of said to myself, I said, okay, this sounds really interesting because, as a musician, I'm always up for experimentation. I'm always up to trying new things because I think that's very important for you to grow, in order to grow. I don't like being complacent in one particular area. So I simply said to Salman, I said, listen, okay, I'm open for it, but then don't expect me to sing it in a manner which is akin to what typical Qawwali singers do, because I'm not that. He said, that's exactly what I would like you to do. He said, if I wanted that typical Qawwali approach, I would have got some of the seasoned Qawwali singers to do it, but I want you to put your touch into it. So the moment he said that, then I was very, very easy and comfortable, and I said, okay, fine, let's do this. And so then I went into the studio, and we started, I started experimenting and, looking at different, ways that I could approach it. And it was a great, great, great experience that I had singing it. And then, of course, he went a step further and he said, you know what, I'd really like you to perform it on the film.
Wow.
And I said, you want me to be a Kawaii? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. So the point was that that's how it came about. And before I knew it, I was in Kashmir, in a place called Pahalgam, where we shot this song for the film. And it was an actual dargah where we shot it. It was an incredible experience because we were on the actual location, and as you've seen in the film, it's a breathtaking location, and the atmosphere was incredible, and I think that it's very, very beautifully captured in the film. That's how the song, this Kawaii came about.
Yes, now I was in Kashmir last year, and it's now part of the tour, where they tell you this is where Bajrangi Bhaijaan was shot. Who inspires Adnan Sami in terms of that's an interesting question because anything and everything could inspire me. A lot of people complain about, for example, I'm right now in Durban and it's sort of very cloudy and very gray, But for me, I look outside and I see inspiration. I think it's beautiful. I've written so many songs about the rain. Yes,
so I look, Barsat, Teri Baahon Mein, so many songs that I've sung about rain, Barish.
Yes.
So the point of the matter is that I look outside my window and I just see music. So anything can inspire me, a moment, a conversation, a visual. But I will say one very important source of inspiration while growing up was my father. My father was and is, will remain a huge, my late father, a great source of inspiration. I will never forget, and I'm sharing this for the first time, my father nurtured my talent ever since I was a child. And even though he had nothing to do with the music profession, he was a diplomat. He was an ambassador to 14 countries.
Yes.
I don't come from a musical family, but he always, encouraged my music. And, the recognition and success that God has blessed me with, I always wanted to share it with him. And I will never forget, we went to the States together once, and he saw, I'm glad that before he passed away, he saw a tremendous amount of my success. But I think the greatest joy that I saw in his eyes was when I came for the first time to South Africa, and I wanted to, and I brought him, I invited him to join me, and we were in Cape Town. And when we were in Cape Town, which is the tip of the world, right? And we went out sightseeing. And we went out sightseeing a day before the concert. And in our car, my father was sitting with me, and the driver had put on the radio. And while music was running on the radio, and suddenly the RJ turned around and said that now we're playing a song from the maestro Adnan Sami. Wow. And my father had heard my music being played on the radio and played on television, most of it my life, because I've been like a child. My first TV program was on BBC when I was 9 years old. So since then, I've been coming on TV, on radio all the time, and my father is pretty used to it. But when he heard this in South Africa, in Cape Town. And he just looked at me with a tremendous sparkle in his eyes, and he said to me, "Beta, do you realize something?" And I said, "What, Baba?" He said, "We are at the tip of this world, right down here. Could you imagine that your music would be played right down here?"
Wow.
And I saw the pride on his face. Yes. And I saw the twinkle in his eyes of pride and happiness that, he was so part of this journey, and he felt so proud. I will never forget that, ever. The joy that he had of hearing my song, and the greatest happiness that I've never seen ever in his demeanor. And I'll never forget that. And
Thank you so much, Adnan Sami, for chatting to us. I waited about 6 years for this interview. So
I'm sorry. I'm usually not that tardy.
No, it's not you. I've been obviously dealing with a lot of people to try and get to you. So it was absolutely such a great pleasure chatting to you, sir. A message to our listeners, and maybe just one of your lines that you'd like to sing from any of your songs, just to give them a taste of what they can.
South Africa is... Thank you for the infinite love that you've always blessed me with. I'm nothing without your love. And thank you for giving my late father the joy of being proud of his son, that his music could be heard in a place as south and as beautiful as Cape Town, and making him proud, which made me as a son very happy to give that joy to my father. And that I owe to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I will see you. I look forward to seeing all of you in Durban as well as in Johannesburg. As always, with all my love. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Cine Talkies Film Fridays podcast. Until the next episode, remember to keep warm and safe. The interview was produced and recorded by Cine Talkies and brought to you with the courtesy of Blue Blood, South Africa.